Awards darling Emilia Perez has been getting a lot of attention since it made a splash at Cannes. But in addition to all of the accolades, including 13 Oscar nominations, the film has been mired in controversy its entire run. Surprisingly, it hasn't just been the type of backlash everyone might have expected, though there has unfortunately been some of that as well. So what really has so many people who should be the target audience upset with the film? Let's unpack all of that, and how it's part of a much bigger problem in Hollywood. Emilia Perez follows the titular character played by Karla Sofía Gascón as she undergoes a gender-affirming surgery to fake her own death and escape her past as a cartel boss, Zoe Saldana as her lawyer Rita, and Selena Gomez as her ex-wife and mother of her children, Jessie. The film has been heralded as barrier-breaking, and in many ways it has been. Gascón was the first ever trans actress to win the Best Actress award at Cannes, for example. But while it does feature some strong performances and engaging moments, as more people outside of the film industry bubble began to have the opportunity to watch it, more and more cracks started to be pointed out. Lots of jokes have been made about things like the bad music, particularly the poor lyricism online.
Man to woman, from penis to vagina.
But the film has much deeper issues too. While no one really expects any film, especially a musical, to be a one-to-one representation of reality or anything, Emilia Perez has been getting a lot of flack because it seems more interested in using the real-life issues it frames its story with for the aesthetic more than as a vehicle for any real introspection or discovery. Emilia's gender-affirming surgery, for example, seems to come with a completely new personality, which might have been an attempt at showing how finally being accepted as one's true self can open them up to kindness and new possibilities, but in the film instead comes across as just playing into more stereotypes around how women are just so emotional and kind and just want to help. The film attempts to use Emilia's own struggles to smooth over the depth of pain she's brought into the world as the vicious leader of a cartel. There's nothing wrong with a film looking to explore the emotional depths of a bad person, but this film seems to intend to make the case that, while sure she was responsible for countless crimes and likely untold deaths, she's magically changed now, so let's just forgive all of that. Amelia Hansford noted in her review, Emilia Perez is primarily a film about being reborn, and it tries to use the idea of transitioning to convey that through her transition, Emilia is trying to repent for the sins she committed in her time as a cartel boss. The issue with this is that transition isn't a moral decision, and the act of transitioning alone doesn't somehow absolve you of your past self. The film even attempts to make the case that she was somehow unaware of the depth and breadth of the carnage wrought on the country by the cartels, while being in charge of a cartel. It also walks the line of the trope that trans women are still partially men on the inside, that masculine energy is still hiding inside of them waiting to come out, particularly in a disturbing scene near the end where Emilia reverts to her original deeper voice when she becomes violent. The film desires to use Emilia's transition as a larger metaphor, but it doesn't seem to want to really engage with the situation on a level deep enough to allow real insight, and so ends up trading in stereotypes instead.
Sí. O sea, realmente no se siente que Emilia Pérez sea la protagonista, parece más bien el objeto que se utiliza para que la historia avance.
This is a problem too with its depiction of the film's location, Mexico. Emilia Perez is filled with stereotypes about Mexican people and culture, to the point of inspiring a parody by Mexican creatives, which we'll unpack in a moment. The film seems much more interested in the surface-level trappings of an outsider's idea of Mexican culture than anything else. And that apparently wasn't an accident. Writer-director Jacques Audiard even openly admitted to not really doing any research on Mexico before writing the film.
¿Qué tanto tuviste que estudiar México para poder hacer esta película?
Non, pas tant que ça. C'est-à-dire que ce que j'avais à comprendre, je le savais.
And the film was shot almost entirely in France with a non-Mexican cast and crew. While the film is ostensibly about a crime boss attempting to repent for the sins of her past, because the film is in such a rush to blow past the darker sides of this to get to the redemption part of the arc, it ends up glossing over a lot of real pain and struggle. As Ricardo Gallegos wrote in his review of the film for But Why Though, of course Audiard doesn't really care about the violence in Mexico or the victims. The other foreign directors, he's only interested in using it for shock and dramatic purposes. This is yet another irresponsible narco-novella. This one shot by a French crew in France to depict their racist and narrow first world vision of Mexico. The true nature and horror of the cartels in the country is meant to be a central feature of the story, as Emilia leaves her past behind and works with others doing the same to attempt to find those who have gone missing or been murdered. But it never truly grapples with the reality of this situation, or what Emilia's place as a cartel boss would have really meant, Gallegos wrote. Audiard doesn't delve into the true horrors caused by sicarios. He doesn't understand the profound suffering narco-culture has caused in the country. He's not interested in portraying the pain of the madres buscadoras. Instead, he only shows the good side of these former sicarios and narcos who want to do good for society. Not only is Audiard humanizing these evil deeds, he's making a spectacle out of the pain they cause, too. The backlash in Mexico led not only to dismal ticket sales, but also to a hilarious parody short skewering Emilia Perez for the way it leans so heavily on stereotypes, is so wholly uninterested in the actual culture. Johanne Sacrebleu the musical, a homage to Emilia Perez, was brought to life by trans-Mexican filmmaker Camila Aurora, working with screenwriter Hector Guillen. It turns the lens back around, in this case with an all-Mexican cast and crew making a story about the most stereotypical French archetypes one can imagine. Everyone in a striped shirt and mustache with their own little Remy.
Ustedes dijeron que sabía todo. Deben hacerse cargo de sus decisiones.
The issues around Emilia Perez haven't just been with the film itself, however. A number of distasteful to straight-up hateful tweets from lead actress Gascón resurfaced. And this wasn't just stans pulling up one tweet in poor taste from a decade ago to make someone look bad, but a consistent stream of them spanning over the course of years. While this film has become a lightning rod for it this award season, the larger problem Emilia Perez represents actually isn't new at all. When life gets stressful, even figuring out what you want to eat every night can be so tiring. Thankfully, HelloFresh is here to make getting dinner done so much easier. HelloFresh's 15-minute meals are a game changer. Just 3 simple steps and ta-da, your meal is ready to go, helping you eat healthier without the hassle. I've been loving their balsamic glazed steak tagliata with garlic herb potatoes and Caesar salad, and the creamy chicken sausage tortellini soup. One of my favorite things about HelloFresh meals is that they give you the real time it'll take to make the meal straight up so that you can plan accordingly. No 15-minute meal if you exclude the 15 minutes of prep work situation here. Their meals really are genuinely quick and easy to make and have a healthy meal ready to eat in no time. We've loved Green Chef in the past, which is now owned by HelloFresh, and have enjoyed being able to switch between the two brands, and have been particularly loving HelloFresh recently. If you'd like to try out America's #1 meal kit for yourself and support The Take, get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at hellofresh.com/thetake10fm. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to hellofresh.com/thetake10fm. In Hollywood, as in many other parts of life unfortunately, there's an idea that marginalized people should just be happy with any representation at all, even if it's badly done and or done by bad people. And that they shouldn't bring up issues no matter what, because then society will just go back to allowing them no representation at all. This has become a very easy way for people who feel that they're above criticism to hand-wave away any that comes their way, saying that critics just don't understand or are just looking for a reason to complain.
We always have to be really skeptical when a few people are elevated and the majority of people are still struggling.
We touched on this briefly in our Honora video, as it pertained to some sex workers who felt that their own issues with the film were being muffled by outsiders who just wanted to solely see it as a perfect film without having to grapple with the places where it might fall short. And with Emilia Perez, it's twofold. Both trans people and Mexican people have had their perfectly reasonable issues with the film ignored or framed as just hate. Gascón herself implied that LGBTQ people with critiques of the film were just stupid. Being LGBTQ, having those labels, does not remove your stupidity, just like heterosexuality does not remove your stupidity. What bothers me is that the people that say things like that are just sitting down at home doing nothing. If you don't like it, go out and make your own movie.
Espera, eso es. Sí. Un pastel. Abattu.
As with Honora, some who wish to brush off the critiques without engaging with them have tried to frame them as just people looking to tear down a film because it's doing well. But in both cases, it's actually a sign of larger issues at play. Festivals and award shows' preference for rewarding a media that aligns with their already established stereotypes about marginalized groups, and the fact that many people from those groups aren't even able to see these films during early festival runs. So much of the early hype is solely from people who aren't a part of the groups in question. So then, later, when they finally do get access and have critiques, it's able to be framed as, well, ugh, no one had a problem with this before, why are you being such a hater now? As GLAAD noted in its review of Emilia Perez, while the film garnered rave reviews when it premiered at Cannes earlier this year, none of those reviews were written by trans people. There is an ongoing challenge with high-profile film festivals programming films about trans people, which are then seen and reviewed by cisgender critics, months before an actual transgender person can even see the film.
When you are a member of a marginalized community, most of the film and television is not made with you in mind. You develop a critical awareness because you understand that the images that you're seeing are not your life.
Embedded in the be happy with any representation issue is the idea that having any sort of critique of a representation of a group of which you're a part means that you're the problem in trying to bring everyone down. We see this sometimes in modern discussions around feminism, for example, with the idea that feminism just means always agreeing with every woman, which is very much not the case, and in fact, the opposite is true. The history of feminism and feminist thought is grounded firmly in critique, having difficult conversations, and putting in the work to find common ground from which to form a strong coalition. Regardless of the group in question, there's an idea that we all have to stick together, but this sometimes gets twisted into a way to protect toxic people. Sticking with people who will willingly throw you under the bus for their own gain or just out of straight-up hate isn't a productive or safe way to go about things, and certainly not a way forward.
Having positive representation can only succeed in changing the conditions of life for trans people when it is part of a much broader movement for social change.
At the end of the day, the powerful will always protect their own interests and each other at the expense of the rest of us. Progressive media can be used to attempt to paper over this for a time, but the cracks always begin to show. And the fact that if you don't like what we give you, then you won't get anything at all is often levied as a threat makes it clear that what progress is being made is something that they feel that they should have power over, and the power to take away. Marginalized people shouldn't have to worry that speaking out about bad representation might mean they're stuck with zero representation on screen at all. It's also just a bummer that so often the forms of representation that are allowed major recognition do so often fall into old tropes and stereotypes. Drew Burnett Gregory wrote for Autostraddle, "I do not think only trans people can tell trans stories. But I'm curious when we will cease to be a metaphor. I'm curious when cis people who are fascinated enough to make movies about us will also be fascinated enough to learn anything about us." Every viewer, of course, gets to decide for themselves how they feel about the film. And while there are many critics, there are also plenty of people, including trans people, who enjoyed it. It's just important to step back and take a more clear look at the situation instead of brushing off everyone within the groups represented in the film who have problems with that representation as haters.
We just need more. And that way, the occasional clumsy representation wouldn't matter as much because it wouldn't be all that there is.
Thankfully, there have been a number of great trans-led and focused films that have come out this year, like I Saw the TV Glow, Will and Harper, Close to You, and A Place of Our Own. And if you'd like a more in-depth look at the reality of the cartel crisis and its impact in Mexico, you can check out the documentary La Libertad del Diablo, or films like Noche de Fuego and Fauna. And you can watch all of Johanne Sacrebleu for free on YouTube. Hopefully, if nothing else, Emilia Perez's success will open doors for more grounded, fully fleshed out stories on screen.
We cannot be a better society until we see that better society. I cannot be in the world until I see that I am in the world.
That's The Take. Click here to watch the video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.